Hello everybody and welcome to our next list video. I had a little bit of a moment there where I was like, is the title to my left, right? It is. It is correct. So today we're going to be talking about our 5 favorite cards that evade enemies. This one's it's a little bit wibbly wobbly. There's some things that may not exactly evade enemies, but they help, or their goal or their function or their primary purpose is to evade enemies. And ultimately, it's no secret on this channel that we don't really we'd rather kill an enemy than evade an enemy 9 out of 10 times. So evading is, even just by the cards that exist for the game, it was a lot easier to go through all the cards that evaded today than it was to draw cards or deal damage, for example. So why don't we dive right in? Bryn, what is your number 5?
I got the Sword Cane, and honestly, this one's pretty much just here because Dex exists. This card is so cool in that particular deck, and not that cool in other decks. It's fine as a one, or I guess it's a multiple shot effect to just get you away from an enemy if you're playing a purple character who doesn't really want to fight something. But who that would be, I'm not entirely certain.
Oh, I'll tell you who.
Well, Travis will. Travis will tell you who.
Yeah.
But the two money cost is fairly cheap for a Mystic asset, just in general, let alone one that lets you use your brain for a different thing. And it also helps you chip down them noxious 3 hit point enemies, because you can fight with it too. It does a lot of things. But
2 things.
Yeah, okay, you're right. It does 2 things. But yeah, it's a pretty solid. Even just using it as a one shot or maybe even a 2 shot effect to evade an enemy, it's still pretty good.
Yeah. My number 5 is Hatchet Man, because you're using this card for an evasion test all the time. That's its purpose. If this skill test is successful during an evasion attempt. Evasion, so it technically works even though the card doesn't actually evade enemies. And I'm going to be completely real with you guys. I don't think I've ever actually had Hatchet Man work. But Travis once built a deck where Hatchet Man was in it, and I was like, man, this is sick. And I've always tried it, but I always just, whenever I bring Hatchet Man out for an evasion test, even if I'm up 5, it's here's your auto fail. Happy birthday, I hope you're having a good one. And I'm like, I don't like this gift, but I still love Hatchet Man, and I'm going to keep playing it, and I'm going to keep failing with it, but it's going to be great. There's actually a popular deck right now I can see on Arkham DB that says Skid's Ultimate Hatchet Man, so I'm just going to quickly open that up and start reading. Travis, what's your number 5?
This is Kind Distraction. I haven't played this card very much, but every time I have, it's been fantastic, and they have all been in the past 8 weeks.
Just chef's kiss.
Yeah,
every
sometimes.
Time. It's so good.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Actually,
what
honestly,
did you bring to deal with monsters? And you're like, turkey.
Yeah. Travis, I think every time, in every scenario, there's been one where Preston Fairmont saved the day with a turkey.
I would be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Bryn, what is your number 4?
I've got the Tennessee Sour Mash. I just think Tennessee Sour Mash is a little bit better than I usually give it credit for. This one, you get to discard it and fight. You get +3 punch for the attack, and if the attack succeeds against a non-elite enemy, you get to automatically evade it. Why the enemy has to be non-elite, I'm not entirely certain. But even so, this you run it out. It's 3 guts, and then after you're done with the guts, it just buys you out of a monster you drew. You're like, cool, I'm out of here. Somebody else can come deal with this later.
Yeah. The reason why it deals with only non-elite enemies because elite enemies don't drink. They're all straight edge. They don't care.
Not drinking, you're hitting them with the bottle.
Yeah, I think the flavor is that you're smashing the bottle on there.
Yeah, but they see the bottle, and because they're like, I don't drink, it wills out of existence.
Yeah, that's not entirely unfair. A lot of elite enemies have like more than one head, or you know, they're really big.
Yeah, they're really big. I mean, I and also, like, could you just imagine throwing a bottle of empty sour mash at Yogg Sothoth, and he's like, okay. All right. Mine is Stunning Blow, which actually falls into a similar space as Tennessee Sour Mash, where you get to attack an enemy, and then if it's successful, you evade it. This one, however, you can knock out Yogg Sothoth, so that's pretty sick. This one I really like because Bryn plays it a lot. And it's really powerful, especially in multiplayer. Like, just the efficiency it gives and, like, saves someone. Like, if the goon doesn't have time, usually Will York is playing this card, let's be real. If the goon doesn't have time to deal with an enemy, with another player, they can just, like, whack them on the head, deal some damage, and then finish them off next turn and actually engage them as well. I think there's just a lot of power that exists in Stunning Blow that we're just starting to tap into. And by us, I mean mostly Bryn still, but yeah. I mean, and also it's practice, so in our Daryl Simmons Survivor Seeker deck, it's going to be fantastic.
I'm not sure it's so much tapping into. It's, you know, like the snake is not getting tapped.
Yeah. Travis, what's your number 4?
It's Trish. I like how if you get clues, you don't have to care about the enemies.
Yeah, that is nice.
I wonder what it's like to be self-sufficient. Not have to beg others for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does that. So it's I mean, it's no secret that a lot of my favorite investigators are off yellow, can play yellow cards without actually being yellow, and she is the green representative.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, sick. All right, Bryn, what's your number 3?
I've got Nimble, which doesn't expressly say evade on it. However, it can only be committed to a foot test, and at least half of your foot tests are evade tests. And then when you succeed, assuming you succeed, I suppose, you can immediately move to a connecting location to a maximum of 3 times for each point you succeeded by. It's not only do you get to run away from the enemy engaged with you, but like you get to run really far away.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of helps you evade even hunter enemies, where you're just like, right, I'll see you on Tuesday. By then, I hope to have a better plan.
Yeah. For my number 3, I'm going to first list a bunch of reasons why I don't like Sword Cane, and then I'm going to list the one reason why Sword Cane's number 3 on my list. So my big problem with Sword Cane is that I feel like the card shouldn't exist. It's just, I think, flavorfully, I don't enjoy the fact that Sword Cane allows a person to fight with their brain, because they're still like, they're really still just hitting someone with a stick, because it doesn't say magic on here, so like they're just hitting someone with a stick, but they're focusing on it really hard. The evade, I think, is fine for it, because there's like kind of like a flavor where you're like tripping the person, or like, you know, stumbling them or something like that. But like being able to fight with your brain, it just seems like, yeah, I know it's like 1 damage, its rate is really low, but it still just kind of like bothers me as a card. However, Gloria Goldberg Grandma with 2 sticks walking around beating enemies in the head to trip them up or kill them up, I liked doing that when I was Gloria Goldberg, so that's why it's number 3 on my list.
This card actually, like, mechanically doesn't make sense as a purple card.
No, it doesn't.
I do agree with that. It makes much more sense as a green card, where like you've got a sword in your cane, but the other guy doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, because like also this should be like, to me this is like a perfect item that's illicit. If you bring a sword into a bar and then stab a cane to a bar in a sword, like, and it's a sword and you stab someone with it, that seems it. Right?
I think the implication here is that the sword is magic, though, because it's a relic.
Yeah. I get it. Like, I get what they're trying to say. I guess I just completely disagree.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't. I will agree that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, but Grandma Gloria going around with 2 lightsabers beating people with them, that was a good time. Travis, what's your number 3?
Oh, this is Pen of the Queen. It does other things too, but you can also evade enemies at your location.
Mm-hmm.
This was the one where you have to put together 3 segments of onyx, and when you do, it has a lightning bolt. You can exhaust it and spend one of the 3 charges on it to choose a revealed location and select one. Move to that location, discover a clue at that location, or automatically evade an enemy at that location. I like this a lot more for the other 2 modes, but it does technically evade enemies, so here it is. I don't like a lot of cards that evade enemies because they're green.
And it's funny because the yellow one just does it better than the green ones.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, you guys are lucky. I almost put Strange Solution Freezing variant on the list.
Yeah.
It show up and you're like, I get +4 to my evade check.
And the green guy's just like, okay, I'm going to use my switchblade and it sucks. All right, Bryn, what is your number 2?
I've got Stunning Blow.
Wow.
This one would be here if for no other reason than the artwork. The snake is just getting beat up. He's getting messed up.
Mocked.
I love the spit coming out of his mouth. Like, he was not expecting that hit to the head.
It's not spit, it's venom, Justin.
Well, it could be either one.
It's spit. Well, I'm fine with both.
He's a snake man. So, like, column A, column B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess kind of fair.
But no, like, the real reason this is here is that sometimes, not every time you play this card, mind, but sometimes when you play this card, you show up to the fight against the scenario boss, and you're sitting there cleaning whatever melee weapon it is that your stupid red character is using, because red characters only get melee weapons until recently. And the boss shows up, and you're like, you never should have come here. And they're like, what do you mean? And hit them as hard as you can. And they're like, I don't get to play this turn. And then they get up, and you're like, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just, they don't get to play the game, and then they die. No, this card is really strong.
Yeah.
I know I have yet to convince everyone else of that, or in fact, possibly anyone else of that. But
I don't disagree with this card. I don't think it's bad.
It is really
What
good.
world do I play a red character but also the monster fighter?
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely have played more Will Yorick than Norm. So there is that.
My number 2 is Mr. Finn Edwards. Do you know what the best thing about taking an evade action is? When you don't have to spend an action to do it. He was kind of like, I remember when I first played him, and I think he was on my top 5 investigators of last year, because he kind of like, I really enjoyed his play pattern in the Forgotten Age when I first played him, right? Like being able to ignore problems and obviously in Forgotten Age he has that advantage where it's not as great in other scenarios, other campaigns, sorry. But I do think as well that Finn Edwards is still like a really strong investigator. It does flip-flop for me between my personal favorites of Trish and Finn, but just seeing like what Travis has been doing with Finn with a Dark Horse build is like, I feel like Finn can have a bit more fun than Trish can have.
What you consider fun?
Sorry?
Depends what you consider fun.
Exactly, yeah. Like, but like for me, I consider that more fun. So like that's why he's here. And I also figured Travis probably would have put Trish on his list, so that's why I didn't include her on mine, because her free evade is also sweet. But one free evade action a turn is a nice way to evade, because I don't like spending actions on evading. It's just not exactly fun to me. Travis, what's your number 2?
This is Miserella. It's the first purple evade spell that they made, and it's also probably still my favorite. Shadow Shadows might, I haven't had an opportunity to play with that yet, but it might usurp it. This one has 4 charges. Actually, spend a charge to evade, use Bryn step foot, and if you succeed after evading the chosen enemy, you get to move to a connecting location. And then the downside for drawing one of the symbol tokens, you have to discard a card, which at the end of the day, it's really not that bad. But this lets you evade the enemy and also like buys you a turn. Like, so you, instead of quote unquote wasting an action invading an enemy, you still get that action back to move to a new location. This card that has a lot of action efficiency in it, and I think that I think we could play a little bit more.
Yeah. I think especially like if you're playing, I think the thing is like why we play it less than we should is because we play 3-player, and with that, like, there's more options. Like, there's more people there who can help you solve problems. But like playing this in like as a 2-player Mystic is sweet. It only costs 2 and you get 4 evades out of it. That's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bryn, finish us off with your number 1.
I've got breaking and entering. I know I haven't been playing very many green investigators lately, but every single one of them that I have played since this card came out has been playing at least one copy of breaking and entering. This card does a lot of work in an unassuming package. Like, you investigate, you add your foot value, so you're passing the test. Let's be real. If +4 or 5 didn't get you over the number you needed to beat, what's happened to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, something weird's going on. And then secondly, if you succeed by 2 or more, you just get to automatically evade an enemy at your location. This action also doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. It's just like a lot of things you can do with this one. You know, your monster fighter drew an enemy. You just play your turn like normal, investigating and doing whatever stupid green things you were going to do anyway. But also, their guy doesn't play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe you don't even need to come back here. You drew one? Whatever. I'll get a clue and leave him behind for the privilege. It does a lot more work than it seems like it should.
Yeah. My
also,
number 1.
if you're careful, it's just entering.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. My number 1 is Pendant of the Queen. Yeah, automatically evade an enemy at any location. Sounds sick. We've alluded to the half-recorded return to the Forgotten Age many times, but it has been my favorite that poor Leo Anderson was at a location with an enemy and he was like, I can't kill this enemy. This enemy's gonna kill me. And then the busted Mandy Thompson is like, worry not. I will evade that enemy from over here and then I will continue getting clues. It's powerful. It's boring, but I enjoy it. It's just, like Travis, I prefer the other modes. Obviously, I would rather be like getting a clue from a location I never want to go back to, or moving across the map through my teleporting orb. But being able to just automatically evade an enemy, especially like if you get an enemy that you're engaged with on a location you're not going to be through that anymore, and you can just be like, no, bye, in a true dumb seeker way. It's a good time. Travis, you're number 1.
Box. It doesn't actually evade an enemy, but you get to disengage from all the enemies engaged with you.
That's nice.
So when we're playing Luke Robinson, you start every game with the gate box in play, has 3 charges on it. So lightning bolt, you get to exhaust and spend a charge to disengage from each enemy engaged with you, and then you move to your dream gate. And then from there you can go wherever you want. World's your oyster. Card's sweet.
Yeah.
It's like you just don't have to care about enemies 3 times, and if you are the clue getter and there's more than 3 times in a scenario where you have to care about enemies, like, what's the rest of your team doing?
They're turning into a tree, I'll tell you that much.
Turning into a tree, willfully ignoring you. There's not a whole lot of different possibilities.
Yeah.
No, it's gotta be, there's only a couple.
Yeah, I think those are the only 2. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised Slipaway didn't make it.
It was my number 6. It was
Really?
it was on my short list, but I don't
It
play
almost
it.
made my list, but I thought one of you guys would pick it, so.
Yeah, I just don't play it much anymore because I haven't played like a green investigator in a while. But I mean, Slipaway is sick, and there's a big snake on the art. Anytime there's a snake on the art, I'm in a good place. Those are the rules.
Them's the rules.
All right, well, everybody watching at home, what are your favorite cards that evade enemies? Let us know in the comments, and if you think there's any that you disagree with that should or should not be on our list, definitely let us know, because our favorite thing in the world is having people on the internet yell at us. It's not, actually, please. I'm very fragile, and don't yell at me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.